What happened shocked everyone. We pointed our best telescopes at the farthest reaches of the universe. We expected to see a clear and predictable process of the expansion of space. But what the instruments revealed shatters the very foundations of modern physics. We were gravely mistaken about the most fundamental law of our universe. The data from orbital observatories do not match any existing model. Scientists have double-checked the operation of all the ultra-sensitive sensors and cameras several times. At first, everyone thought it was a simple glitch in the computer algorithms. However, various independent research teams are obtaining the same alarming figures. Our familiar reality works completely differently than we thought. This discovery is causing genuine panic among the world's leading astrophysicists. For many years, we believed in a neat and elegant mathematical theory. The expansion of the universe was supposed to follow clear and understandable rules. The speed at which galaxies are receding was supposed to be measured by a single universal and unchanging number. Instead, we see chaos that cannot be explained by known laws. The fabric of space-time behaves in a completely unpredictable and extremely aggressive manner. This problem no longer resembles a simple calculation error. It looks like a fundamental flaw in the very code of the universe itself. Every new launch of a powerful telescope only exacerbates this profound crisis. What we considered an unshakable truth turned out to be nothing more than a sweet illusion. The cosmos has presented us with a riddle, the answer to which could destroy humanity. We stand on the threshold of the most terrifying discovery in our history. We thought we understood the past and future of our world perfectly. Scientists confidently plotted graphs of how the universe was born and will die. But new data is mercilessly tearing these graphs to shreds. Some incredibly important and hidden detail in the mechanism of the universe has broken. And now we watch in horror as the consequences of this massive breakdown unfold. All our ambitious plans for exploring deep space are now in jeopardy. What is the point of building ships if we do not understand the properties of space? We cannot predict how the fabric of the universe will behave tomorrow. The vacuum surrounding us turned out not to be an empty stage, but an unpredictable ocean. And in this dark ocean, a storm of unprecedented scale is brewing. We have no tools to protect ourselves from its destructive consequences. At first glance, the stars still shine peacefully at night. But behind this illusion of calm lies a catastrophic mismatch of physical constants. The space between galaxies is expanding at completely different, illogical speeds. It is as if someone invisible is pulling the universe apart at its edges with immense force. This process defies any logical explanation from a scientific standpoint. We sincerely hoped that new observations would fill in all the gaps. We were waiting for definitive answers from the James Webb Space Telescope. Instead, it sent us confirmation of cosmologists' worst fears. The anomaly is real, it is enormous, and it is not going anywhere. For the first time, humanity has realized its absolute helplessness in the face of the laws of large-scale physics. We find ourselves trapped in a world that refuses to play by the rules. If the fundamental laws are broken there, they could break here too. Our Earth is flying through space, which is subject to the same strange forces. We do not know when this hidden anomaly will reach our solar system. This uncertainty is causing the deepest existential anxiety among scientists worldwide. We are like passengers on a train, hurtling down tracks that have been dismantled ahead of us. We will have to completely rewrite the entire history and physics of our world. Old astronomy textbooks can now safely be thrown in the trash. We find ourselves face to face with a terrifying, gigantic, and inexplicable mystery. The universe has turned out to be a far more dangerous and strange place than we had imagined. And this is only the very beginning of our long journey into the unknown. For decades, astronomy rested on the solid foundation of the standard cosmological model. This elegant theory described our world as a comprehensible and logical mechanism. It all began with an incredibly dense state and a gigantic Big Bang. After that, space began to expand smoothly and uniformly in all directions. We believed we fully understood every stage of this grand cosmic process. Scientists took pride in having unraveled the greatest mystery of the universe's birth. This model gave us confidence in the immutability of the laws of nature. Scientists believed that after the initial explosion, all galaxies were simply flying by inertia. Gravity was supposed to act as the main brake on this scattering. Billions of star clusters were drawn to one another, slowing down the overall motion. Physicists drew graphs in which the universe slowly cooled and settled down. It was a very comforting and aesthetically flawless picture of the cosmos. The famous Hubble constant became the main measure of this process. This specific number indicated the exact speed at which distant galaxies were receding. The farther away a star cluster was, the faster it was supposed to be moving away from us. This rule seemed as unshakable as gravity on Earth's surface. Physicists devoted decades to measuring this constant as accurately as possible. Its exact value was supposed to finally cement our triumph over the mysteries of the cosmos. The very name of this constant paid homage to the great astronomer Edwin Hubble. It was he who, nearly a century ago, first noticed that other galaxies were moving away from us. His stunning discoveries forever changed our conception of a static and eternal cosmos. Hubble proved that we live in a dynamic and ever-changing environment. But even he could not have imagined how complex these dynamics would turn out to be. His initial calculations were merely a tentative step into the infinite unknown. Modern calculations rely on highly reliable and time-tested observational methods. We use the cosmic microwave background as a perfect snapshot of the very earliest universe. This faint microwave echo remained immediately after the formation of the first stable atoms. From this ancient light, scientists were able to calculate the expansion rate at the very beginning of time. Then they simply applied this data to our current cosmic era. The theory predicted a single specific value that no one dared to doubt. The study of the cosmic microwave background became the true gold standard in modern astrophysics. Special orbital probes created incredibly detailed maps of the temperature fluctuations in this radiation. Every tiny spot on this map carried information about the composition of the young universe. Scientists read this data like an open and very clear mathematical book. The model worked so flawlessly that many considered cosmology to be a practically complete science. All that remained was to refine a few decimal places in the already known formulas. All of our physics was built on absolute confidence in these mathematical calculations. We thought the universe was like a rubber balloon inflating uniformly. If you were to draw points on it, they would move away from each other in exactly the same way. This model made it easy to calculate distances to the most unimaginably distant stars. It gave us a pleasant and false sense of complete control over the reality around us. We sincerely believed that we had tamed the most formidable force in nature. Space seemed to us like a huge, yet very precise mechanical clock. Every galaxy moved along a predetermined and strictly mathematically justified trajectory. We could confidently say where any object would be in a billion years. This astonishing predictability gave humanity incredible peace of mind and faith in the power of reason. It seemed to us that we had become the full-fledged intellectual masters of this boundless world. A person with a telescope felt like an omniscient creator of a new reality. But to definitively confirm the theory, scientists needed independent, practical measurements. They decided to measure the expansion rate right now in our local part of the universe. To do this, astronomers began searching for so-called standard candles in the night sky. These are special pulsating stars and incredibly bright flashes of a certain type of supernova. Their true brightness is always known to physicists, which allows for very precise distance calculations. The plan seemed absolutely reliable and was only meant to confirm the old calculations. These standard candles function like lighthouses for passing spacecraft. If you know the actual power of a lighthouse's lamp, you can easily calculate the distance to it based on the dimness of the light. In space, the roles of such lights are played by Cepheid variables and white dwarf explosions. Their behavior obeys the strict laws of thermodynamics and nuclear physics. Astronomers simply located such objects in neighboring galaxies and measured their visible light. It was a straightforward and understandable method of measurement without complex theoretical frameworks. Observations were conducted over many years using the most expensive space-based and ground-based telescopes. Computer programs analyzed the faint light from galaxies millions of light-years away around the clock. Researchers meticulously collected data to obtain that coveted Hubble constant. Everyone expected the new figures to perfectly match predictions based on the cosmic microwave background. No one in the scientific community even imagined the possibility of a catastrophic discrepancy in the results. It was routine work to confirm material that had already been thoroughly established. Teams of astronomers competed with one another for the right to be the first to settle this question. They checked and double-checked every scrap of invaluable data they had collected. Telescopes peered into the pitch-black darkness, recording the slightest changes in the brightness of distant stars. The work demanded immense patience and unprecedented precision from every participant in the process. Scientists were firmly convinced that they were on the verge of creating the perfect model of the universe. They were preparing to celebrate the final victory of the human mind over cosmic chaos. We were blissfully unaware of the true, complex nature of things. Astrophysicists calmly wrote their dissertations and received prestigious awards for their theoretical models. Conferences took place in an atmosphere of complete consensus and deep mutual scientific satisfaction. The illusion of order was carefully maintained by hundreds of authoritative scientific journals across the globe. We had built a stunningly beautiful house of cards out of formulas and equations. Yet no one noticed the destructive intellectual hurricane approaching it. In this ideal picture of the world, there was simply no room left for surprises. The evolution of the universe seemed like a book we had read long ago, with a predictable and very boring ending. We were convinced that the expansion of space was a straightforward and well-understood backdrop. Against this backdrop, future civilizations could have slowly and safely built their development. Humanity grew complacent, confident in the immutability of the fundamental laws of the natural world around us. We had no idea just how wrong we were in our boldest conclusions. However, science never forgives excessive self-confidence and blind faith in authority. The universe always finds a way to brutally shatter our most beautiful and elegant theories. When the data from two independent measurement methods were finally compared, it came as a real shock. The beautiful bubble of our illusions burst with a deafening crack right there in the laboratories. The calm and measured era in global cosmology ended suddenly and absolutely forever. Ahead of us lay a terrifying unknown and the complete collapse of our fundamental foundations. Two measurement methods yielded two completely different and mutually incompatible numbers. Calculations of the early universe indicated an expansion rate of about 67, but direct measurements in the modern, nearby cosmos stubbornly yielded 73. This difference seems tiny and completely insignificant only to the average, untrained person. On the scale of precise astrophysics, this discrepancy looks like a gaping and terrifying chasm. These two final figures were not supposed to differ from one another by even a fraction. The expansion rate is measured in kilometers per second per million parsecs of distance. This means that space is stretching with a certain acceleration over every vast stretch of the path. If the number is 67, we get one rate of the universe's aging and expansion. If it is 73, then our world turns out to be much younger and is expanding alarmingly fast. These two scenarios describe completely different realities with entirely different physical pasts, and they cannot possibly exist in the same universe at the same time. At first, scientists simply refused to believe the reality of the anomalous results they had obtained. They decided that the old telescopes simply lacked the necessary optical precision. They were quick to attribute the errors to cosmic dust, which could distort the light of distant stars. New orbital missions were launched to thoroughly re-examine all the collected data. The planet's brightest minds spent years recalibrating all measuring instruments and detectors. No one in their right mind wanted to dismantle the established and universally understood standard model. Astronomers began searching for hidden flaws in the very methods used to observe standard candles. Perhaps pulsating stars behaved differently in other, younger and more active galaxies. Or perhaps supernova explosions were not as uniform as theoretical physics had predicted. Every stage of the calculations was subjected to the harshest criticism and thorough independent scrutiny. Teams of researchers tried to find errors in their colleagues' work to save the face of modern science. But all their desperate attempts to find a saving error ended in complete failure. But the more precise our instruments became, the wider and more obvious this gap grew. The famous Hubble telescope confirmed these alarming discrepancies with incredible mathematical precision. The margin of error in independent measurements shrank to a laughable 1%, ruling out any random glitches. It became absolutely clear that the problem lay not at all in our imperfect earthly technology. This gigantic and inexplicable rift runs through the very fabric of our physical reality. Nature seemed to be mocking our attempts to force it into strict mathematical frameworks. Later, the most advanced space observatories of an entirely new generation joined the effort. They were able to peer even further and measure distances with unprecedented resolution. However, the new data merely drove the final nail into the coffin of old cosmology. The discrepancy between the two figures not only persisted, but became an indisputable scientific fact. Physicists were forced to admit defeat in the face of stubborn and cold observational data. We had measured the universe with extreme precision, and the result turned out to be completely wrong. This alarming discrepancy has been given the ominous name Hubble tension in scientific circles. It quickly became the worst nightmare for every modern physicist around the world. We measure the same process, but we get completely incompatible and different answers. It's like measuring the length of a table with a school ruler and getting exactly 1 meter, and then measuring it with a high-precision laser and suddenly finding it's a full 1.5 meters. That simply cannot be in a stable, logical, and predictable material world. The Hubble tension means that our ruler changes its length over time. What was an unshakable truth billions of years ago no longer holds true in the modern era. Space seems to have changed its density or acquired entirely new fundamental properties. Because of this, light travels through a vacuum differently than Einstein's proven formulas predict. This violates the basic principle of the immutability of the laws of nature throughout our observable reality. Science has always maintained that physics works exactly the same way yesterday, today, and tomorrow. The realization of this shocking fact gives rise to a deep and paralyzing existential anxiety. If we cannot measure the basic expansion, then we understand nothing at all. All our complex calculations of the mass, age, and dimensions of the universe have suddenly been thrown into immense doubt. We no longer know for certain how many billions of years old our vast cosmic home is. Distances to other galaxies can no longer be considered absolutely reliable physical quantities. All of fundamental science has been left hanging in the air above an abyss of complete ignorance. The entire history of the cosmos that we teach in universities may turn out to be a beautiful fairy tale. Perhaps the universe is younger than the oldest star clusters known to us. This paradox destroys the very logic of cause and effect relationships in the development of any matter. Stars simply cannot appear before the very space for their existence has formed. But it is precisely such absurd conclusions that the current Hubble tension may lead us to. It is as if we have lost the single point of support on which the entire edifice of world astronomy rested. The situation becomes even worse when we realize there are absolutely no easy solutions. We cannot simply take the good old mathematical formulas and tweak them slightly. Any attempt to artificially adjust the expansion rate immediately breaks other well-established laws of physics. If we roughly alter the mathematics to fit the new data, the coherent theory of galaxy formation will collapse. The universe flatly refuses to fit into a single logical puzzle that we can understand. Some pieces of this gigantic puzzle are clearly taken from a completely different, unknown box. Theorists are trying to introduce new, exotic types of elementary particles into their calculations. They invent invisible fields and extra dimensions to somehow balance the equations. But every such innovation makes the picture of the world increasingly convoluted and extremely artificial. The Standard Model was beautiful precisely because of its ingenious simplicity and elegant minimalism. Now, however, it is turning into a cumbersome monster made of crutches and unconfirmed hypotheses. The crisis in cosmology has reached such a massive scale that it demands a completely new physical revolution. This gigantic crack in reality shatters our calm confidence in the future. Science has always been built on the principle that the laws of nature are constant across time and space. But the Hubble tension screams directly and very loudly at us that this is a colossal delusion. Space is changing its fundamental properties according to rules completely unknown to us, right before our very eyes. This introduces an element of terrifying, primal unpredictability into the very essence of the existence of all matter. We find ourselves inside a colossal mechanism that could break down or change its algorithm at any moment. Many scientists now feel as though they have been treacherously deceived at the highest level. Nature kindly showed us a beautiful demo version of its laws within the cozy confines of the solar system. But as soon as we peered deep into the abyss, it rudely violated its own rules. A persistent and eerie feeling arises that the universe operates by different laws in different places. The discrepancy in the numbers points to the presence of something profoundly alien and utterly incomprehensible. This is direct proof that a hidden force, completely unknown to us, is at work in space. We will have to learn anew to live with this terrifying and, for now, unsolvable mystery. The crack in our reality does not merely exist, it is gradually widening with every new scientific publication. What began as a tedious academic debate has turned into a global catastrophe for the entire physical worldview. We realized with horror that our place in the universe is far more vulnerable than any of us had imagined. Now, we must boldly peer into this darkness to find the true cause of this monumental failure. Only then can humanity reclaim the lost illusion of understanding this boundless world. If the instruments are working correctly, then the problem lies in the very fabric of space itself. Something is causing the nearby universe to expand much faster than it should. For a long time, we relied on the flawless performance of our orbital telescopes. Thorough rechecks ruled out the possibility of a simple technical error or sensor malfunction. This led the scientific community to a deeply troubling conclusion about the nature of reality. Classical physics knows of no mechanisms capable of accelerating the fabric of space and time to such an extent. Scientists are accustomed to relying on the fundamental laws of gravitational attraction between massive bodies. Ordinary gravity from giant stars and planets should have been gradually slowing down this process. It seemed logical that after the initial explosion, the universe would gradually slow down. But in practice, we see a completely opposite and frightening picture. Space is not simply expanding in size with each passing day on Earth. It seems to be going mad under the influence of colossal invisible pressure. The distances between neighboring galaxy clusters are rapidly and continuously growing. This frightening dynamic does not fit at all within the framework of familiar cosmological models. We are observing a process that, physically speaking, should not exist in a tranquil universe. Galaxies are moving away from one another faster and faster. This defies all our everyday experience and basic common sense. If you throw a heavy stone high into the air, it should naturally slow down and fall back down. This is an immutable rule for all baryonic matter known to us. In the universe, however, this imaginary stone begins to fly upward with incredible acceleration. Scientists were forced to introduce a new, frightening term into their complex equations. This completely baffling anomaly was simply and ominously named dark energy. This mysterious entity invisibly fills a vast portion of our entire observable universe. It literally permeates every cubic centimeter of the cold vacuum surrounding us. We cannot escape the presence of this phenomenon at any point in the universe. The scale of this force's prevalence boggles the imagination of any rational person. This mysterious substance accounts for about 70% of the entire contents of the cosmos. All stars, nebulae, and even clusters of dark matter pale in comparison to its vast backdrop. It possesses the incredible property of anti-gravity and violently pushes matter in all directions. We have absolutely no understanding of the true nature of this all-consuming cosmic phenomenon. The grandiose name itself is merely a smokescreen for our total scientific ignorance. We use the word dark only because this energy is completely hidden from direct observation. We do not know what quantum fields or particles it might consist of. Not even the most sophisticated detector on Earth is capable of directly detecting its presence. Physicists continue to speculate, relying solely on indirect mathematical clues. We have no instruments to measure it directly here on Earth. Physicists can only observe how it affects very distant and ancient stars. The light from these distant stars inevitably stretches during its long journey. It shifts toward the red end of the spectrum as it travels through the ever-expanding interstellar space. It is this noticeable redshift that reveals the presence of the invisible cosmic engine. But the physical mechanism behind this mighty engine remains firmly hidden from our eyes. For many years, we sincerely hoped for the fundamental constancy of this dark energy. We thought it was distributed absolutely uniformly throughout every corner of the universe. Scientists believed it acted with equal force at every stage of the cosmos's development. Physicists very confidently and calmly called it a cosmological constant. This made it easy to make the numbers add up in theoretical calculations of the universe's future. But the problem of the mismatch in expansion rates completely destroys this convenient hypothesis. Modern ultra-precise measurements show too great a discrepancy between the collected data. The recession speeds of galaxies in the early and late universe fatally do not match. The constant so beloved by physicists no longer works in our mathematical models. We must admit defeat in the face of new and extremely inconvenient astronomical facts. This invisible substance behaves in a completely unstable and highly unpredictable manner. It changes its properties according to laws that are entirely unknown to us. If the expansion rate was one thing at the beginning of time and has now become something entirely different, a scientific paradox arises. Physicists are literally having to rewrite old university textbooks. The basic principles of how the universe works have turned out to be far more complex than we could have imagined. We urgently need to seek new logical explanations for this frightening phenomenon. Perhaps the fundamental properties of the cosmic vacuum itself change over the course of billions of years. The idea of the universe being perfectly fine-tuned begins to seem to us like nothing more than a beautiful and naive illusion. The universe is frankly playing with us by rules that we are only just beginning to grasp with difficulty. Our former self-confidence is giving way to a deep sense of scientific bewilderment. Astrophysicists began hastily constructing bold theories to solve this global problem. The concept of so-called early dark energy emerged. According to this mathematical model, shortly after the Big Bang, there was a brief burst of an unknown field. This strange, exotic field existed for only a very short time on the scale of cosmic time. But its colossal power was enough to permanently alter the initial structure of our world. This hidden field gave the young universe a sharp kick at the very beginning of its long journey. It imparted an incredible additional acceleration of expansion to the newborn space. Then, this field mysteriously vanished without a trace or transformed into something else. We cannot see it at all now in our relatively calm and cold cosmos, but we clearly and distinctly observe the indelible gravitational traces it left behind. This hypothesis sounds like a desperate attempt to save the authority of modern science. Scientists are simply trying with all their might to force a solution onto an unsolvable school problem. We are artificially inventing new entities solely to preserve our familiar picture of the world. We need to make the ends meet at any cost in the crumbling equations of the theory of relativity. But this is truly the best and most coherent explanation available today. Early dark energy perfectly smooths out the mathematical contradictions between old and new data. It allows us to temporarily preserve the fragile consensus within the global community of theorists. However, it inevitably adds even more dark mysteries to the tangled history of our world. Each such assumption makes the model of the universe increasingly complex and cumbersome. It is as if we are treating the symptoms of a serious illness while completely ignoring the root cause of the ailment. Even worse and more frightening is the idea of the variable nature of this ubiquitous phenomenon. There is a possibility that dark energy is constantly changing its density right now. It may be steadily increasing over time and becoming an increasingly aggressive force. This radically changes our views of the tranquil future of the night sky. It means that the universe is not simply expanding mechanically due to an ancient inertia set at the beginning. Right now, a gigantic invisible engine is working ceaselessly within it, and this destructive motor is constantly and completely uncontrollably revving up to deadly speeds. With every passing second, the fabric of space is being stretched ever more forcefully and mercilessly. We have absolutely no idea what the actual physical limit of this insane mechanism's power is. It is entirely possible that such a limit simply does not exist in nature. If dark energy continues to grow at such a terrifying rate, the consequences will be fatal. This will mean the inevitable end for all living and structurally complex things in the universe. It will begin to rapidly tear apart not only the weak connections between distant galaxy clusters. Huge stellar islands will be mercilessly torn apart by an unknown force. Our own Milky Way will forever lose its beautiful spiral arms. Eventually, its colossal power will be sufficient to completely destroy individual star systems. Planets will be brutally torn away from their warm stars and sent into eternal darkness. Then, it will be the turn of the dwarfs and giants themselves to turn into cold, diffuse gas. In the very end, this force will tear even the tiniest building blocks of matter to pieces. Physicists call this terrifying scenario of the future the Big Rip. The presence of this ever-changing and omnipotent force evokes a deep, primal unease. We are completely at the mercy of a mechanism that defies human logic entirely. This bears no resemblance to the familiar schoolbook laws of conservation of energy and mass. A force constantly emerges from nothing, causing the fabric of existence to literally burst at the seams. Space is simply being born endlessly, right between distant galaxies. This phenomenon grossly violates our perception of a vacuum as something dead and absolutely static. Previously, the cosmic void seemed to us to be simply a safe absence of any matter. Now, however, the vacuum has turned out to be a vast, seething cauldron of hidden and incredibly dangerous activity. Particles are constantly being born and disappearing within it, creating colossal background pressure. And we float in this unstable ocean without the slightest hope of salvation. We cannot touch dark energy with our hands or study it in an Earth-based collider. It interacts in absolutely no way with ordinary light or the matter we are familiar with. It is impossible to trap it in a magnetic trap or freeze it for study in a laboratory. We feel only its colossal anti-gravitational influence exclusively on gigantic intergalactic scales. At the level of a single solar system, this eerie effect remains practically imperceptible. It is very much like living in an old house with an invisible and extremely aggressive poltergeist. The ghost constantly and completely silently pushes apart the heavy walls of your cozy room. You cannot see it yourself, nor can you hear its footsteps on the creaking floor. But you perfectly understand the terrifying nature of the phenomenon unfolding around you. Your living space is inevitably changing under the pressure of an alien will. The realization that our world is governed by a variable factor terrifies inquiring minds. If dark energy is unstable, we are completely unable to predict the ultimate fate of the universe. All our long-term scientific predictions lose any physical meaning. Precise mathematical graphs turn into useless wavy lines on monitor screens. We are sailing in a boat with absolutely no idea where the turbulent cosmic current will ultimately carry us. We used to reasonably believe that stars would slowly fade away over many trillions of years. The cosmos was supposed to gradually sink into eternal cold and absolute impenetrable darkness. It was a very sad but physically understandable scenario of a peaceful end of time. Now, however, an unknown, powerful force could tear reality apart much faster and more violently. Scenarios for the future have shifted from a slow freeze to an unpredictable cosmic catastrophe. The more we observe deep space, the more aggressive this energy seems. It appears to be deliberately and ruthlessly attempting to destroy any complex structure in nature. Everything created over billions of years of stellar evolution is under direct threat. Beautiful gas nebulae and dense star clusters will be ground to dust. Chaos is slowly but surely gaining the upper hand over the ordered cosmic order. Gravity is desperately trying to hold the galaxies together to preserve the familiar order. It pulls matter into dense clusters, forming new young stars. But it is hopelessly and very quickly losing this unequal cosmic war. A dark force is inexorably tearing the universe apart into completely isolated fragments of icy space. It is physically impossible for any highly developed civilization to resist this massive process of destruction. We have become hostages to a force that dictates the harsh rules of the entire universe. Human science is powerless to fully explain its essence and hidden mechanisms of operation. This force is invisible, omnipresent, and utterly indifferent to the fates of any biological civilizations. It simply methodically and cold-bloodedly tears apart the fabric of existence according to its own laws. These laws remain utterly incomprehensible to our feeble human minds. Perhaps we simply won't have enough time to unravel this ultimate mystery of the universe. The expansion will continue to accelerate relentlessly, leaving us completely alone amid the growing darkness. Scientists continue to stare intently through their telescopes, hoping to catch even the slightest clue. But for now, the cold cosmos keeps its secrets under a very secure lock. And all we can do is helplessly watch this terrifying cosmic process unfold. But the problems of modern astrophysics do not end there. If the universe were expanding incorrectly, but at least uniformly, that would be half the trouble. Unfortunately, new data from telescopes has revealed yet another terrifying cosmic anomaly. It turns out that the fabric of space is expanding at completely different rates in different directions. This discovery dealt a fatal blow to the main philosophical principle of all cosmology. We have always sincerely believed that the universe is absolutely homogeneous in all directions. Astronomers call this basic assumption the principle of isotropy of the observable universe. This meant that no matter where we looked, the overall picture of the world should be similar. Galaxies should be distributed uniformly throughout the entire night sky. The speed at which they recede should not depend on the viewing angle we choose. This principle made astronomical calculations incredibly simple and straightforward. Isotropy allowed scientists to apply local Earth-based laws to the entire vast universe. Absolutely all of Einstein's mathematical equations in physics rested on this solid foundation. We considered our corner of the cosmos to be typical and indistinguishable from the rest. If we measured the expansion rate here, then it must be the same billions of light years away from us. This gave us the pleasant illusion of fully understanding how the universe works. But nature had a very unpleasant surprise in store for physicists. Ultra-precise X-ray telescopes revealed a completely different picture of our reality. Scientists decided to measure the temperature of massive gas clouds in various galaxy clusters. They studied the most distant clusters on the far outskirts of observable space. It turned out that on one side of the night sky, these clusters are receding from us much more slowly. But in the opposite sector of space, the galaxies are racing away at a terrifyingly high speed. The results of these measurements sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The difference in speed was too noticeable to be attributed to a simple instrument error. The researchers double-checked the data from various space observatories several times, but the anomaly did not disappear and continued to stubbornly baffle astrophysicists. The universe is expanding as if it were shaped like an irregular, curved oval. In one direction, space stretches readily and very easily. In the other direction, it seems to resist this destructive process. The space around us has a gigantic flaw that we didn't even suspect. This is not a local, random fluctuation of matter in our small stellar neighborhood. It is a global cosmic asymmetry that permeates billions of light-years of cold emptiness. It all looks as if the universe possesses its own distinct axis of rotation. Scientists have half-jokingly called this strange direction in the sky the axis of evil. Hidden within this joke lies a genuine dread of the destruction of the fundamental laws of the physical world. The frightening concept of the axis of evil itself arose during the study of the cosmic microwave background. This is the oldest faint glow remaining in space since the Big Bang. A map of this background also revealed a strange division of the sky into warm and cold hemispheres. Now, new X-ray data on galaxies has fully confirmed this anomalous inhomogeneity. The symmetry of space turned out to be nothing more than a convenient and crude mathematical fiction. Real space turned out to be a much more warped and irregular place. Imagine sweet raisin dough that rises completely unevenly in a hot oven. On one side, it puffs up into a huge, fluffy bubble. On the other side, it remains a completely flat, stiff pancake. This is exactly what the scientific map of the expansion of our once-ideal cosmic home looks like today. This means that fundamental laws may change depending on the direction of observation. What holds true in the northern sky may turn out to be false in the south. Such a distortion of expansion cannot be explained by the usual accumulation of stellar matter known to us. Astrophysicists have tried to attribute the anomaly to the gravitational pull of giant clusters of dark galaxies. They have searched diligently for so-called great attractors in the deep, dark cosmos. These are colossal gravitational centers hidden beyond the limits of our direct visibility. But no single mass in the universe is capable of warping all of space on such a global scale. The cause of this wild asymmetry lies in the very fabric of our distorted reality. Perhaps this deep flaw has remained since those incredible times of the Big Bang. This means that the very birth of our world was initially crooked and uneven. In that case, these ancient scars will remain on the fabric of space forever. We live in a universe that was born with a severe genetic defect of gigantic proportions. And this defect is currently causing different parts of the cosmos to run on different clocks. Such a thought causes intense inner discomfort for any thinking person. The defect in space completely shatters our familiar picture of a homogeneous and tranquil cosmos. If time and expansion flow differently at different ends of the universe, then there is no single history of the world. Stars in the rapidly expanding part may perish long before their time, and galaxies in the slow zone will exist for trillions of years without significant changes. We lose the ability to create a universal model of the future for the entire cosmos. Each sector of space may face its own unique and independent fate. If space is inhomogeneous, then the universe may have a real edge or a hidden boundary. Or perhaps we are hurtling through some gigantic cosmic flow of unknown origin. This powerful flow inexorably sweeps away absolutely all matter in its path. We have grown accustomed to selfishly viewing ourselves as stationary observers in a uniform soap bubble. But the data clearly show that an unknown force is carrying us in a certain direction. We have absolutely no idea what awaits us at the end of this endless, forced journey. Humanity finds itself in the role of a helpless twig in a vast and very turbulent river. The current of this cosmic river is too fast, and its banks are hidden in impenetrable darkness. We can only measure the speed of the flow, but we are powerless to change its direction. All our planets, stars, and galaxies obediently float along this mysterious channel. The discovery of the directed motion of all matter is truly terrifying in its grandeur. It clearly shows just how small and insignificant we are on the scale of the true universe. This structural irregularity renders our attempts to understand the world as a whole meaningless. We can no longer confidently transfer data from one sector of space to other regions. Knowledge of the physics of one constellation may prove completely useless for its distant neighbor. Humanity finds itself in the situation of a blind man who has been feeling his way around an elephant for a long time. With every new angle, we discover completely incomprehensible and contradictory details. We will never be able to see the complete and true picture of this strange universe. This flawed space frightens us with its unpredictable and utterly wild nature. We no longer believe in the perfect luminous spheres of ancient scientists. The uniform and smooth progression of cosmic history turned out to be a naive illusion of the past century. We live in a damaged and asymmetrical reality that refuses to play by neat rules. Our world has turned out to be an ugly lump of warped vacuum hurtling into a cold nowhere. And we must come to terms with the idea that we will never be able to fix it or fully understand it. For a long time, all these cosmological debates seemed like nothing more than abstract problems for gray-haired professors. What difference does it make to the average person just how fast an unnamed galaxy a billion parsecs away is receding? People have grown accustomed to naively thinking that distant space has no impact on their everyday life on Earth. But the expansion anomaly is rapidly ceasing to be a purely academic and distant mathematical puzzle. If the fundamental properties of space are unpredictable, this directly affects every living atom in our bodies. If dark energy is unstable and its density is increasing, something truly terrifying awaits us. Scientists have created a rigorous model of the end of the world, called the Big Rip or phantom energy. In this scenario, the universe's anti-gravity will not simply continue to push apart distant galaxy clusters. It will begin to intensify in an avalanche-like manner right within our local, once safe space. The force of expansion will gradually and inexorably exceed the forces that firmly hold matter together. This sounds like a death sentence for any physical structure in the entire observable universe. First, this monstrous phantom energy will permanently tear our Milky Way away from neighboring galaxies. The night sky will be forever deprived of the light of other stellar islands, plunging into absolute darkness. But the process of global destruction will certainly not stop there. It will only gain momentum. Then the expansion will overcome the weak gravity within our own, once stable galaxy. Stars will begin to scatter chaotically in all directions, forever losing contact with their planetary systems. Then, it will be the inevitable turn of our tiny and utterly defenseless solar system. An invisible force will tear Earth away from the dying sun, sending it into the deadly cold of open space. But even this lifeless chunk of cold rock will not be able to survive long in such a hostile vacuum. In the mere months before the end, dark energy will mercilessly tear the Earth itself to pieces. The planet's gravity simply won't be able to withstand the frenzied expansion of space right inside itself. In the very last hours and minutes of the universe's existence, the destruction will reach microscopic scales. Space will expand so unimaginably rapidly that it will sever the electromagnetic bonds within complex molecules. And then it will tear apart the elementary quarks and the very atoms of which we are composed. The fabric of existence will finally tear into infinitely small fragments, completely isolated from one another. Nothing at all will remain of our reality except a mathematically perfect void. And the most terrifying thing is that we do not know the exact timing of this catastrophe. Due to the Hubble tension and the curvature of space, calculations of the universe's lifespan are completely meaningless. The Big Rip could occur in tens of billions of years, as theorists previously predicted. Or it could begin at any moment if a phase transition of dark energy occurs suddenly. Physics offers us no firm guarantees of safety for tomorrow's cosmic day. We are literally sitting on a time bomb with a completely invisible timer. This looming threat renders all our civilizational achievements laughably meaningless. We proudly make plans for millennia to come, developing our culture and complex technologies. But what is the ultimate meaning in all of this if the very stage on which we perform could collapse? Space is not merely indifferent to us. It may be structurally lethal to any form of matter. The anomalous expansion of the universe is a slowly tightening noose around humanity's collective neck. Perhaps this is precisely why we still see no clear signs of other highly advanced civilizations. They may have tragically encountered local phase transitions of unstable space in the past. If the expansion is uneven, entire sectors of space may have already experienced the Big Rip. These death zones have simply methodically wiped vast territories clean of any signs of intelligent life. We are staring into a deafening void because unstable physics has already destroyed all our neighbors forever. This thought chills us to the bone and causes seasoned astronomers to break out in a cold sweat. We can no longer count on the universe to provide us with a reliable and eternal home. The threat does not come from meteorites or a dying sun, which could theoretically be fought against. The threat is firmly embedded in the vacuum itself, in every cubic centimeter of empty space around us. It is physically impossible to hide from this process because the very fabric of our existence is tearing apart. The realization of this global and inevitable danger completely changes our outlook on life. Our anxiety is rapidly transforming from academic curiosity into a deep existential fear. We are flying through an incredibly unstable world that can change its laws without the slightest warning. The laws of physics, which seem to us like impenetrable armor, have turned out to be fragile and unreliable glass. And under the weight of new, inexplicable discoveries, this glass has already begun to crack with enormous fissures. In an attempt to salvage what remains of common sense, some physicists have proposed an extremely exotic theory. What if the universe itself is expanding perfectly normally and in accordance with strict primordial formulas? What if the problem and the eerie anomaly lie not in the vast, distant cosmos, but specifically within us? Astronomers have put forward a bold hypothesis regarding the existence of the so-called Hubble bubble. According to this idea, we are inside a gigantic void of unimaginable dimensions. It is a local region of space with an extremely sparse distribution of any known matter. According to this model, our solar system and the Milky Way are located at the bottom of a cosmic void. Imagine a piece of Swiss cheese with huge air pockets inside. We live right in the center of one such colossal empty hole. The density of matter around us is several times lower than normal average values. There are catastrophically few stars and galaxies here compared to the rest of the universe. This makes our corner of the cosmos a true wasteland on a galactic scale. Due to this acute lack of mass, gravity in our local region behaves completely differently. It is simply physically incapable of counteracting the natural expansion of the fabric of space. The gravitational pull between the sparse galaxies inside the bubble is too weak. Therefore, space here is expanding much faster than in denser regions. This theory sounds quite elegant from a purely mathematical standpoint, but its philosophical implications terrify researchers even more than the instability of dark energy. If the bubble hypothesis is indeed correct, then all of our physics is an exclusively local phenomenon. We have built a deep understanding of the structure of the world on a very shaky foundation. For centuries, scientists have studied only their own anomalous and incredibly empty zone. Our familiar physical constants, such as the speed of light, may be false on a vast scale. They work flawlessly only within this strange and rare cosmic void. Beyond the boundaries of our gigantic bubble, the universe operates by entirely different rules. This thought triggers a sudden wave of incredible, almost suffocating claustrophobia. We are not merely alone in the cold cosmos among dead planets and asteroids. We are trapped in a defective and utterly marginal part of a vast reality. Our world turned out to be far from the gold standard of the great and infinite cosmos. Our native void is nothing more than a frightening statistical anomaly of nature. Any observer inside such a bubble is inherently doomed to draw false conclusions about the surrounding world. We are forced to view the real, dense universe through a distorting optical lens. The boundaries of our empty bubble brutally refract light from distant ancient quasars. This is precisely why all measurements of other galaxies yield such contradictory and strange results. Data from telescopes is distorted by the abrupt transition from a dense medium to a rarefied one. Scientists failed to notice this massive optical illusion for far too long. Now, however, The harsh truth is gradually beginning to emerge through inconsistencies in the formulas. We are like blind deep-sea fish at the bottom of a very dark and cold ocean. These unfortunate creatures are desperately trying to study the structure of distant mountain peaks on land. Our instruments are originally rigidly calibrated for the extreme conditions of the local environment. We have always been very proud of our orbital telescopes and ultra-sensitive detectors, but they turned out to be completely blind to the true grandeur of normal dense space. Our technology is simply not adapted to work with the correct physics of the universe. Life inside an isolated bubble makes it completely impossible to understand objective reality. We are rigidly cut off from real physical processes by the dense boundaries of our void. Earth science is forever trapped in a giant funhouse mirror of mathematical illusions. We continue to naively and stubbornly take its blurred reflections for the absolute truth. Every new grand discovery may turn out to be just another local error or mirage. Escaping this deep informational dead end is incredibly difficult for our civilization. The dimensions of this supposed empty bubble simply cannot be grasped by the ordinary human mind. It must span billions of light years in every possible direction from Earth. This colossal void encompasses millions of local galaxies around the Milky Way. To us, it seems like a vast and incredibly eventful world. But such scales are nothing compared to the true dimensions of the dense universe. The real living cosmos begins only where our anomalous zone ends completely. If we truly live in such isolation, the chances of interstellar contact are absolutely zero. Dense and active biological life is teeming out there, deep in the cosmos. It is there that great, powerful civilizations are born, and incredible megastructures are built. But we will never be able to physically reach these worlds through the void. Viewed in this light, the fate of our civilization appears extremely bleak and lonely. We are destined to wander eternally and aimlessly through this sparse desert. The existence of such a colossal void grossly violates the fundamental laws of statistics. The chance of such an enormous bubble forming by chance is laughably small. Mathematically, the probability of such an event approaches absolute zero on the scale of eternity. This naturally raises the most terrifying question for any logical-minded person. How exactly could this perfect, gigantic sphere have formed from the primordial chaos? Is there not some intelligent and powerful will behind this process? Is this vast void not an artificially created exclusion zone of gigantic proportions? Perhaps it is the tragic result of a massive galactic quarantine imposed by ancient races. Someone incredibly powerful deliberately cleared this distant sector of space of excess matter. They could have so elegantly shielded their world from potential biological threats like us. This hypothesis sounds like sheer madness, but the physics of the local bubble makes it possible. We may simply be dangerous, aggressive bacteria in a giant petri dish. We return once again to the frightening idea of a cosmic zoo for isolated development. In this context, our solar system resembles a giant reservation for a wild civilization. Only now, the sturdy bars are not the radio filters of super-intelligent aliens. The walls of our prison are built from the warped laws of our local physics. We are securely locked in empty space with strange and distorted gravity. And this isolated space is expanding much faster than the speeds of our most advanced technologies. It is a perfect and utterly insurmountable cosmic prison for an entire species. Its invisible walls constantly flee from the prisoners at a speed faster than the speed of light. Not even our most advanced spacecraft will ever be able to leave the confines of this void. Viewing the night sky through the lens of this cruel theory robs us of any remaining sense of romance. The stars appear bright to us, only because of the complete absence of normal, light-absorbing matter around them. Our crystal-clear night sky directly points to the hopeless poverty of the universe. The isolated bubble theory mercilessly takes away our last hope of understanding the true universe. It tells us directly and harshly of the profound inadequacy of our reality. We are simply a strange mistake of nature, trapped in the mathematical constraints of local physical constants. The key to understanding the expansion lies not in the vastness of the cosmos, but in our own spatial inadequacy. And this truth strikes our inflated human ego far harder than any alien virus. The most radical conclusion to be drawn from all that is happening boils down to one extremely disturbing thought. Perhaps our entire field of exact science is fundamentally flawed at its very core. For hundreds of years, brilliant scientists have painstakingly built this beautiful house of cards. We have created countless complex mathematical formulas and elegant physical theories. It seemed to us that we had finally begun to understand the fundamental structure of our world. But we stubbornly try to force outdated human models onto things that are utterly unknowable. Yet, these perfectly functioning laws are merely a tiny fraction of a vast and hidden truth. As soon as we venture into the unimaginable scales of galaxy clusters, the situation changes radically. Our flawless formulas suddenly turn into useless, non-functional rubbish. Calculations begin to yield completely insane and illogical observational results. Space flatly refuses to obey the rules that work so well on Earth. And this discrepancy is causing real panic among the world's leading astrophysicists. We have painstakingly and for a very long time created the most complex constructs to salvage crumbling theories. The scientific world has come up with very convenient concepts like the notorious dark matter and dark energy. These high-sounding terms sound impressive and frequently appear in the pages of scientific journals. They are meant to explain why galaxies rotate and disperse in a completely incorrect manner. Theorists have written thousands of dissertations studying the properties of these invisible substances. But behind the beautiful facades of the formulas lies a deep systemic crisis. Deep down, every honest astrophysicist understands perfectly well the essence of the looming problem. These beautiful and mysterious terms are simply convenient placeholders for our total ignorance. They are not real physical entities in the direct and literal sense of the word. No one has ever seen dark matter through a telescope or detected it with detectors. These are simply crude mathematical crutches to prop up our severely limping standard model. Without these crutches, the entire edifice of modern cosmology would immediately collapse. If rigorous calculations of gravitational behavior suddenly fail to match observations, we don't give up. We simply artificially add a huge, fictitious, invisible mass to the equation. After that, we sincerely rejoice at the beautifully tailored and correct result. Scientists behave as if they are hiding extra trash under a beautiful rug. Instead of admitting an error in the very formula for gravity, we invent invisible galactic halos. This is a very convenient but completely dishonest approach to understanding nature. If the expansion of space does not go according to our plan at all, we immediately invent a repulsive force. We endow the cosmic void with incredible hidden properties and immense energy. All of this is done solely so that our old favorite formulas will work again. This approach bears far more resemblance to ancient mystical alchemy than to rigorous, precise science. We simply brazenly force stubborn facts to fit the convenient, familiar school answers we're used to. Real science should not work this way. The natural world around us has long and very clearly been making us aware of our colossal mistake. Our basic concepts of space and linear time are catastrophically incomplete and severely limited. We still habitually think in narrow, everyday categories of only the three dimensions available to us. We naively and firmly believe that time always flows in a straight line, only forward. We refuse to entertain the idea that time might have volume or flow at different speeds. Our minds are firmly locked into this convenient three-dimensional illusion. But the eerie anomalies observed in cosmic expansion may be the projection of entirely different forces. These could be distorted echoes of incredibly complex multidimensional physical processes invisible to us. If there are more dimensions in the universe, then our telescopes see only a small fraction of what is happening. Gravity may be leaking into these hidden dimensions, weakening its influence in our world. This would elegantly explain the anomalous acceleration of distant galaxies' recession. But it is incredibly difficult to test this bold hypothesis with our three-dimensional instruments. Imagine two-dimensional, flat creatures living on the surface of an ordinary white sheet of paper. For them, throughout their entire long lives, only the length and width of their thin world exist. They have no concept of height and cannot look up or down. Their scientists have constructed a perfect physics describing the motion of geometric figures on a plane. They are absolutely certain of the immutability of their simple two-dimensional laws. This flat world seems to them to be fully understood and logically complete. And then, someone's giant invisible hand suddenly begins to slowly fold this sheet exactly in half. To the flat inhabitants, this inexplicable phenomenon would look like a magical contraction of space itself. Objects from opposite ends of their universe would suddenly find themselves next to one another. They would observe a violation of absolutely all the basic laws of their two-dimensional physics. Scientists of the flat world, in a panic, would invent dark energy to explain this contraction. It is precisely in this pitiful role of blind and confined observers that all of humanity now finds itself. In exactly the same way, we are physically incapable of fully comprehending the true form of our reality. The universe is expanding at vastly different rates, not for no reason, but for hidden reasons. Most likely, it is not at all the familiar, three-dimensional expanding sphere we are accustomed to. Most likely, it is a colossal multidimensional object with a distorted geometry that is utterly incomprehensible to us. The shape of this object may be so complex that there are no words for it in human language. We are trying to describe the ocean with only a small glass of water at our disposal. This complex cosmic object is constantly undergoing transformations and changing its properties. Global changes in its shape cause strange fluctuations in our limited field of view. The fabric of space may stretch in one direction and contract in a completely different one. And these global changes are completely inaccessible to our feeble biological apparatus for perceiving information. We simply cannot see the whole picture because of our evolutionary blindness. Our gaze hits an invisible wall of our own physical limitations. We see only the curves and very blurry shadows of these grandiose, multidimensional processes. We are like primitive ancient people intently watching the whimsical play of shadows on the walls of a dark cave. From these flat shadows, we try to guess the shape of the three-dimensional objects outside. Sometimes our guesses are correct, but more often than not, we are gravely mistaken in our conclusions. The true nature of phenomena remains securely hidden from our inquisitive gaze. Humanity has become a hostage to its own weak physiology. Our brain simply lacks the necessary neural architecture to grasp the essence of phenomena. Brutal earthly evolution spent millions of years preparing us to survive on the dangerous African savanna. We needed to be able to throw a spear accurately and spot a lurking predator in time. Evolution did not prepare us at all for the complex calculations of invisible multidimensional hyperspace. we are strictly limited by the insurmountable constraints of our own primitive protein-based biology. It is practically impossible to comprehend the complex macrocosm using the ordinary human mind. And this directly implies one thing that is very offensive to modern, proud science. We will most likely never be able to create a true and working theory of everything. Great scientists constantly dream of a single universal physical equation that describes the entire world. They want to find a short and elegant formula that can easily be printed on a t-shirt. The dream of a definitive understanding of the universe drives the minds of thousands of brilliant researchers. But this coveted intellectual summit may prove fundamentally unattainable. They want to elegantly and as concisely as possible unify gravity, quantum mechanics, and the expansion of the cosmos. This is rightly considered the primary and most prestigious goal of all modern theoretical physics. For this purpose, gigantic colliders are built and incredibly expensive space telescopes are launched. Physicists believe that the world is, at its core, simple, logical, and mathematically flawless. But nature itself, frankly, refuses to submit to our ambitious and self-assured plans. It is far more complex and chaotic than any of our wildest imaginings. The universe constantly and with undisguised mockery throws completely new and unsolvable anomalies our way. As soon as we put one puzzle together, someone roughly mixes in pieces from other boxes. These complex riddles easily shatter any of our unifying and coherent mathematical theories. It feels as though someone is deliberately hiding the keys to understanding the universe from us. The expansion of space at different speeds in different directions serves as an excellent example of this. This paradox alone undermines decades of intense work by the best theorists. Every time we naively think we've grasped the essence, the rules of the game change radically. The vast, cold cosmos openly mocks our timid attempts to force it into narrow confines. Our human logic is too straightforward and primitive for such a chaotic and unruly world. We seek strict order, where fundamental unpredictability reigns supreme. A universal final formula may turn out to be an utterly unattainable, illusory scientific mirage. Humanity will have to resign itself to the eternal status of a curious student. False and outdated physics breeds a false sense of complete safety on planet Earth. We constantly feel a foolish pride in our illusory technological superiority over the wild natural world. Our smartphones, the internet, and nuclear reactors make us feel like omnipotent gods. We sincerely believe that we have completely taken control of the surrounding material reality. It seems to us that nothing in the universe is capable of surprising or frightening us anymore. But this arrogant confidence is our primary and most dangerous delusion. We boldly launch tiny automated probes far beyond the boundaries of our home solar system. People sincerely consider themselves the great and fearless conquerors of the dark and dangerous cosmos. But our calculations rely on laws that could fail at any moment. Our much-vaunted physics may turn out to be merely a local, temporary, and very specific case. If the laws are unstable, then any of our interstellar spacecraft could simply vanish into the void. The limits of our technological power end just beyond Pluto's orbit. Tomorrow, our familiar and reliable gravity could change without any warning. We might wake up in the morning to find that objects around us have become twice as heavy. This catastrophic event will occur due to a random fluctuation in a multidimensional field completely unknown to us. Such catastrophic events may occur regularly on a cosmic scale, wiping out entire galaxies. Thousands of alien worlds may perish simply due to shifts in local physical constants. The universe is cruel and utterly indifferent to the suffering of intelligent biological species, and none of our most advanced earthly technologies will save the planet from instant annihilation. No deep bunkers or giant space arcs will help if the very fabric of space itself collapses. We have been building our beautiful scientific castles on the shifting sands of cosmic uncertainties for far too long. The Hubble tension is an incredibly loud and frightening alarm signal for our entire civilization. It is screaming at us that the basic, fundamental structure of reality is extremely unstable. Our world hangs by the thinnest of threads, which could snap at any second. What we have always considered an unshakable and quiet backdrop may turn out to be a seething ocean. The cosmic cold vacuum is not empty at all, as we naively thought for all these long centuries. It is filled to the brim with hidden, powerful energy capable of changing its properties at any moment. This vast energy field exists in a state of precarious equilibrium, ready to collapse at any moment. A single random quantum spark is enough to trigger a chain reaction of destruction on a cosmic scale. And then, our cozy reality will cease to exist in the form we know it. A possible quantum phase transition of space itself will destroy us incredibly quickly and painlessly. The sphere of total destruction will expand at the speed of light, devouring stars and entire galaxies. We won't even have time to realize the true cause of our sudden and inevitable demise. The sky will simply go dark in an instant, leaving no time for prayers or empty regrets. This destructive process will spread much faster than a pain nerve impulse can reach the cerebral cortex. The end will come completely unnoticed by all inhabitants of our doomed planet. We find ourselves in the extremely unenviable position of those very naive and self-assured ancient thinkers. They believed, with complete sincerity and fervor, that our Earth was absolutely flat and immobile. The scientists of antiquity constructed complex models of the universe, resting on the backs of giant elephants and whales. For them, this primitive ancient physics worked perfectly within the confines of their own picturesque valley. Nothing in their daily lives pointed to the spherical shape of our vast planet, and it was very difficult for them to accept the new, frightening picture of an infinite heliocentric world. In the same way, our theory of relativity works perfectly within the narrow confines of the solar system. We test it using satellites and sincerely rejoice in the mathematically predicted time dilation. But at the incredible edges of the vast universe, this elegant scientific model is mercilessly cracking at the seams. Right before our eyes, it crumbles into fine dust under the relentless pressure of new, irrefutable facts. The speeds at which galaxies are receding categorically refuse to fit into Einstein's old and reliable formulas. We are about to experience a scientific revolution as monumental as the one Copernicus's contemporaries underwent. Developing a completely new physics will require a painful and lengthy abandonment of our most cherished dogmas. We will have to forget forever the comfortable and understandable scientific theories of the 20th century. We will have to meekly accept the uneven flow of time in completely different sectors of deep space. The speed of light may forever lose its special status as the absolute physical limit for any motion. It is quite possible that information can be transmitted instantaneously through hidden spatial tunnels. The mind will have to break its own stereotypes just to try to comprehend new, unimaginable concepts. The science of the future will come to resemble mysticism or terrifying higher dimensional magic. Dry formulas will describe phenomena that are impossible to even imagine in a three-dimensional mind. And as we stand on the threshold of this terrifying intellectual transition, we feel our own insignificance. The universe has turned out to be too vast, incredibly complex, and completely indifferent to our technological ambitions. Humanity will have to relearn humility in the face of this endless, yawning void. Our old physics is dead, and the new one looks like a one-way ticket into the unknown. Ultimately, all these shattered expectations and failed theories boil down to a single feeling. We are experiencing a profound existential shock from confronting the true face of the universe. Our reality has turned out to be torn, warped, and rapidly expanding into a void we cannot comprehend. We can no longer hide behind beautiful mathematical formulas and the confident statements of scientists. The scientific world is completely at a loss, and this confusion is gradually seeping into the minds of ordinary people. Every new discrepancy in the telescope data is a rusty nail in the coffin of our peace of mind. We have realized that we live in a place that is completely unsuited to our biological form of life. Space is extremely hostile, fundamentally unstable, and harbors threats of an unprecedented nature. These aren't cute little green men or asteroids that can simply be blown up with a nuclear missile. These are the very basic laws of physics, which could wipe us out of the fabric of reality in an instant. It is impossible to defend against such an omnipresent enemy, even in theory. The question, "Are we alone?" now sounds completely different against the backdrop of these terrifying discoveries. If we are alone, then we are the last, random, and fragile spark of intelligence in this chaos. If we are not alone, then all other civilizations are just as helpless in the face of spatial anomalies. They, too, look through their telescopes and watch in horror as their universe tears apart. We are all simply hostages to a mechanism that is breaking down right before our eyes. And none of us has the authority or the power to repair this cosmic engine. Perhaps the future of humanity is not endless expansion and the colonization of distant stars at all. Our future may turn out to be a dead end due to the physical impossibility of traversing unstable space. Different expansion rates and hidden phase transitions will make interstellar travel mathematically impossible. We will remain forever chained to our tiny planet, watching the slow death of the world around us. And this cold realization renders many of our great technological aspirations and grand projects meaningless. We must accept that there are things we will never understand. Our mind is a powerful tool, but it has strict biological limitations. We are incapable of grasping the essence of dark energy or the curvature of multidimensional space-time. We can only note the facts of anomalies without understanding their true, underlying causes at all. Humanity will have to learn to live in a state of permanent philosophical and scientific uncertainty. This ringing uncertainty evokes a primal fear because we are accustomed to controlling everything. But on the scale of the universe, our earthly control is simply a laughable, childish illusion. Space will expand as it pleases, paying no attention whatsoever to our crooked formulas. We can only sit humbly on the edge of the abyss and watch as it changes its shape. Our greatest achievement is the very realization of our absolute insignificance in this process. When we look up at the night sky, we no longer see a peaceful and cozy home there. We clearly see a gigantic, perhaps defective mechanism operating at extreme capacities. Stars are merely glowing specks of dust carried by an invisible hurricane of unstable dark energy. And sooner or later, this hurricane will reach every corner of what was once a unified universe. Reality turned out to be far colder and more terrifying than any science fiction horror movie. The Hubble tension has brutally ripped the rose-colored glasses of scientific romanticism and self-confidence from our eyes. It has shown that cosmology is only just beginning its difficult journey into the darkness of true ignorance. Every new astronomical discovery will bring us not answers, but only new, even more terrifying questions. We have entered an era in which science generates more fear than real benefit for survival. Because some knowledge carries a burden too heavy for the human psyche. We have carelessly opened Pandora's box, filled to the brim with macroscopic physical paradoxes. We will have to summon all our courage to continue these terrifying explorations of the heavens, even knowing full well that at the end of the road, only confirmation of an inevitable catastrophe may await us. The thirst for truth compels us to point our lenses into the black abyss again and again. We will measure this warping, tearing universe until our very last breath. It is the only way available to us to preserve our human dignity in the face of eternity. After all, the universe is under no obligation whatsoever to make any sense to us. It does not have to conform to our mathematical models or our naive expectations. It simply exists in all its terrifying, asymmetrical, and deadly glory. The expansion of space is no longer converging, and perhaps it never will again. And all that remains for us is to stand silently on the edge of this mystery, awaiting the final resolution.